ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3 and we are beginning today chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So, yesterday we completed 3.25, very celebrated chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, what is going to happen is, we will come to this chapter only after 7 years now, 7 to 8 years. This is the cycle of reading Bhagavatam. The way we are going 30 minutes every day, it will take 8 years to complete Bhagavatam almost. And then again to come to any chapter back, it will be 8 years of Viraha to discuss. Okay. Anyway, it's a very beautiful chapter. Many shlokas that we cited, many. So we come to 26 now. So chapter 26 is divided into 7 sections. So the first section is text 1 to 2, benefits of hearing Sankhya philosophy. So this is the first section. The second is 3 to 8, where there is a discussion on Jiva, Prakriti, and Purusha. That we have seen that devotee is requesting that please describe me the difference between Prakriti and Purusha. So, that is being described. Then 9 to 32, these are the specific answers to devotee's questions. Devotee has asked questions and then again she has asked questions. So this is 9 to 32. Text 33 to 49, now we are going to discuss Prakriti, characteristics of the elements. Right. Then 50 to 53, there is discussion about Karya Srishti. Then from 54 to 61, there is a discussion about creation of limbs of Virata Rupa. Because Prakriti means, we have already seen some elements of Prakriti and some, the Sarga, we have already seen Sarga aspect in the second canto. Some part of Visarga also. Sarga is primary creation, Visarga is secondary creation. So again, revisit, to some of these more deeper. And finally there, 62 to 72, and that is how the Virata Rupa is there, but Virata Rupa is sleeping. And Devatas are attempting to wake up Virata Rupa. So this is how this chapter is, fundamental principles of material nature. So this entire teachings of Lord Kapila, if we see, these are from chapter 25 to 33. And they are predominantly answering 7 questions. This we have seen last time. So the first question that devotee asked was, please dispel my illusion. Then second question she asked about how to attain you easily through bhakti. That was the second question. Very easily can I attain you. Third question she asked was, what is the processes of Jnana Yoga? Fourth question she asked was, what is the processes of Yoga Marga, especially Ashtanga Yoga? And, the description of Lord's forms and the dhyana and dharana, those are the things. Fifth question she asked was, path of bhakti in detail. that she will ask in 29th chapter again. Okay, so these first 4 questions were asked in the 25th chapter, and then the 3 questions explain path of bhakti to me in detail, nature of time, kala, and how the continuation of birth and death happens for the jiva. So these are the 3 questions they will be asked in 29th chapter. And teachings, these 7 chapters, 25 to 33, rather 8 chapters, these are answers to 7 questions of Devahuti to Lord Kapila. 4 questions in 25th chapter and 3 questions in 29th chapter. So this is how this canto, particular this section of Bhagavatam progresses. So now we come to text 1, chapter 26, text 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha अथ ते संप्रवक्ष्यामि तत्त्वानां लक्षणं पृथक् यद् विदित्वा विमुच्येत पुरुषः प्राकृतैर्गुणैः. Translation.
The personality of Godhead Kapila continued. My dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, only through devotional service. Bhaktya Mam Abhijanat. As stated in the Bhagavatam, the object of devotional service is Mam, Krishna. And as explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to understand Krishna means to understand Krishna in his personal form with his internal energy, his external energy, his expansions and his incarnations. There are many diverse departments of knowledge in understanding Krishna. Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world. It is generally understood by the Parampara system or by disciplic succession to be the science of devotional service. Preliminary studies of devotional service have already been explained. Now the analytical study of devotional service will be explained by the Lord, who says that by such an analytical study, one becomes freed from the modes of material nature. The same assertion is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tato mam tattvato jnatva. By understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. This is also explained here. By understanding the science of devotional service in Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. The eternal self, after becoming freed from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. As long as one has even a slight desire to enjoy or lord it over the material nature, there is no chance of his being freed from the influence of nature's material modes. Therefore, one has to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead analytically, as explained in the Sankhya system of philosophy by Lord Kapila. Hare Krishna.
So now Lord Kapila, he begins his teaching. The personality of Godhead, Kapila continued, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Atate sampravakshami. Now I will explain to you in detail, sampravakshami, tattvanam lakshanam pratak. What is going to explain the Lord? The different categories of the absolute truth. Tattvanam lakshanam pratak. And what is the result of such thing? Vimuccheta, one will attain, one will be released from the influence of modes of material nature. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Lord can be understood only and only by devotional service. And this is, the continuous theme of Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. To know the Supreme Lord tatvatah, one has to perform devotional service. And the word mam will come in Bhagavad Gita many, many times. Mam ekam sharanam praja. Aham tvam, so the Lord is, always talking about personality. Srila Prabhupada says that understanding Krishna means understanding Krishna along in his personal form and along with his different energies like internal energy, external energy, expansions, incarnations. So there are many diverse departments of knowledge to understand Krishna. And the Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world. So, so specifically those who are in a deep conditioning of the three modes of material nature, Sankhya philosophy is recommended. Of course, conclusion of Sankhya is bhakti. So, but here it is, we are going to understand in detail Tatvanam Lakshanam Prathak. Right. Prabhupada says preliminary study of devotional service have already been explained. Those beautiful verses. Pashyanti te me ruchiraniyam basanta prasanna vaktra arunalochanani. So preliminary study of devotional service is already explained. Now the analytical study of devotional services will be explained by the Lord. So the 3.25 was the preliminary study. This is just to give the idea what is the nectar is going to come. And now we have to go more into the process and we have to see the analytical study. Now this will be explained in detail, where one will be understanding the material nature and how to be free from the material nature. And this is the result of knowledge. Tato mam tatvato gyatva. By understanding the Lord according to various categories, one becomes eligible to be freed and one becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Right. Prabhupada says the Sankhya philosophy can liberate a person with divine knowledge. And with that knowledge, the person will be engaged in devotional service and giving up all the selfish desire to enjoy the material nature. Even if there is a slight desire to enjoy the material nature, there is no chance of going back home, back to Godhead. That's why we see that in the Srila Prabhupada on the final days, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada any desire? And Prabhupada very famously said, he was bedridden, unable to speak, but Prabhupada said these words, Kichu ichha nahi. Okay, that I have no desires except to be engaged in devotional service. So, so this is, Prabhupada says, therefore, one has to understand the Supreme analytically in terms of Sankhya philosophy as explained by Lord Kapila. Come to text 2. Jnanam nishreyasarthaya purushasyaatmadarshanam yadahu varnayet tatte hridaya granthi vedanam. Translation?
Translation: Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I shall explain that knowledge unto you by which the knots of attachment to the material world are cut. Purport: It is said that by proper understanding of the pure self, or by self-realization, one can be freed from material attachment. Knowledge leads one to attain the ultimate perfection of life and to see oneself as he is. The Shvetavastra Upanishad 3.8 also confirms this. Tama eva vidivati mrityum eti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. In various ways, the seeing of oneself is described in the Vedic literatures and it is confirmed in the Bhagavatam. Purushaya Atma Darshanam, that one has to see oneself and know what he is. As Kapila Deva explains to his mother, this seeing can be done by hearing from the proper authoritative source. Kapil Deva is the greatest authority because he is the personality of Godhead, and if someone accepts whatever is explained as it is without interpretation, then he can see himself. Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami the real constitutional position of the individual. He said directly that each and every individual soul is eternally a servitor of Krishna. Jivere Swarupa here, Krishnera Nityadasa. Every individual soul is eternally a servitor. When one is fixed in the understanding that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul and that his eternal position is to serve in association with the Supreme Lord, he becomes self-realized. This position of rightly understanding oneself cuts the knot of material attraction. Hridaya Granthi Bhedanam. Due to false ego or false identification of oneself with the body and the material world, one is entrapped by Maya. But as soon as one understands that he is qualitatively the same substance as the Supreme Lord because he belongs to the same category of spirit soul and that his perpetual position is to serve, one attains Atma Darshanam and Hridaya Granthi Vedana, self-realization. When one can cut one, when one can cut the knot of attachment to the material world, his understanding is called knowledge. Atma Darshanam means to see oneself by knowledge. Therefore, when one is freed from the false ego by the cultivation of real knowledge, he sees himself, and that is the ultimate necessity of human life. The soul is thus isolated from the entanglement of the 24 categories of material nature. Pursuit of the systematic philosophic process called Sankhya is called knowledge and self-revelation. Hare Krishna.
Jnanam nishreyasarthaya purushasya atmadarshanam. Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization, which will lead to Hridaya Granthi Bhedanam, which leads to knots of the attachment to the material nature are cut. Right. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that by proper understanding of the pure self, one can become free from material attachment. Now Srila Prabhupada quotes Shvetashvatar Upanishad. Tameva viditvam mrityumiti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as one is free from material entanglement. Right? So one has to deeply understand one's spiritual position. Now, what is the spiritual position? The spiritual position is very clearly described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here in Bhagavatam also, the same thing is called as Purushasya Atma Darshanam. One has to see oneself and know what he is. And how to see that? This seeing can be done by hearing from the bona fide source. Right? And that's why Pravachan is also called as Darshan. Why it is called as Darshan? Because actually, Pravachan is like showing mirror to us. Who am I? What is my duty? And therefore, it is also called as Darshanam, Pravachan or Darshan, something like that. Right? So, there is a very beautiful story of once a baby cub who was actually, the cub of a lion was there with the parents, living like a lion. But suddenly, there were the hunters, they attacked with guns and everything. So the parents, they had to flee, and this cub was lost. And later, this cub joined a group of goats. And this, he was also a simple cub kind of a thing. And he just, joined the group of the goats. He started behaving like a goat. And although his bodily structure was different, he was growing, but all his habits, he was trying to eat the grass, he was trying to make the sound bah, bah, and and it was a great endeavor for this cub to make that sound. Sheeps, goat nahi, sheeps. And one fine day, after many, many months, the parents realized that our cub is, with the sheeps and behaving like a sheep. And then the parents, they made a plan, and one day they just attacked this entire, all the sheeps. And as soon as the lion and lioness, they attacked the sheeps, and all the sheep started running, and the cub also started running, and cub was running, and finally, the parent just caught hold of the cub, took him to the lake nearby, and just said that, shows, look at yourself. And the first time the cub saw the mirror in the water, and then he could realize, oh, I don't look like the sheeps. I look like my parents, these two lions whom I am afraid of. This was like darshanam, to understand who I am. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupahe Krishnir Nityadas. Because the jiva is constantly in the touch of material nature, jiva behaves like matter. Right? Jiva behaves like matter, degrades to different forms, and but when the jiva understands Jivera Swarupahe Krishnera Nityadas, that each and every individual soul is eternally servitor of the Lord, then what happens? Prabhupada says, when one is fixed in that understanding that I am part and parcel of the Supreme, and then that is my eternal position to serve the Supreme, that is called as self-realization. So many times people are messed up with this word Atma Sakshatkar, and people feel that Sakshatkar means some current has to pass in the body, or they have to get some feats or something like that. No, Sakshatkar, Atma Sakshatkar, self-realization means realizing who is the self is. I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul. And what is my activity? My activity is Jive Swarupahe Krishnera Nityadas. So understanding this and being fixed in this is called as self-realization. Prabhupada says, this position of rightly understanding oneself cuts the knot of material attraction, Hridaya Granthi Vedanam. Due to false ego, one is entrapped by Maya, but as soon as one understands this, that one is part and parcel of the Lord, in the same category of the Lord. Qualitatively, I am one with the Lord. Satchidananda. Lord is also Satchidananda. And then this is called as Atma Darshanam, and which will leads to Hridaya Granthi Bhedanam. Of course, although we may theoretically understand our eternal spiritual position, it will take time to act in that position, because the body, the indriyas, they are trained to act materially. It's like coming back to that cub and the parents example. Even if the cub understands that, yeah, he is not the sheep, he is actually the lion and he is the cub, still it will take time for him to go from bad to, go to the roaring. Because he has trained his body, he has trained his mind, he has trained his indriyas to talk in a particular way, to eat in a particular way, to think in a particular way, to identify oneself in a particular way. Similarly, a devotee will understand himself as the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but still he will take considerable time to come out of conditioning, although understanding is clear. Right? And this is the difference between Jnana and Vijnana. Vijnana means realized knowledge. Jnana means just the knowledge. Right? E is equal to mc square. It's like Jnana. But to realize it, right? Realize that knowledge, how the matter when transformed into energy gives phenomenal amount of heat, and how come to the derivation of E is equal to mc square. So that is like Vijnana. So devotee will understand the jnana, but it will take some time, and that prolonged practice of devotional service to come to the point of vijnana. And this is, Prabhupada says, the ultimate necessity of the human form of life. Therefore, the human life is given so that we can practice devotional service. Very important word, practice devotional service. So our understanding is clear, Sambandha Gyan is clear. We have to give great lengths for practicing devotional service and understanding the Sambandha also in detail. Like we are going to understand how the living entities entrapped in the matter. There are 24 categories of the material nature, and the entrapped living entity, how will perform devotional service, but because the living entity is entrapped in the modes, the devotional service that he performs will also be in the modes. Right? There will be somebody, like we will see the story of Daksha, whose devotional service is in the mode of ignorance. Then there we will see Dhruva Maharaj, whose devotional service is in the mode of passion. He wanted to attain something, and means to attain that something is, bhakti, and that is in the mode of passion. And then we will see devotional service in the mode of Sattva Guna, like Prithu Maharaj and other examples. And then we will see devotional service in Supreme Sattva, that is by the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan, so on and so forth. So, understanding the three modes of material nature, 24 elements, how the living entity is entrapped, how the particular guna is acting on him, and how within that guna one starts performing devotional service, one gets purified of the gunas by the potency of devotional service, and ultimately one becomes a pure devotee. This is the progressive path that we are going to study in this chapter. Text 3. अनादिरात्मा पुरुषो निर्गुणा प्रकृते परः प्रत्यग्धामा स्वयं ज्योतिर् विश्वं येन समन्वितम्.
The Supreme Person of Godhead is Supreme Soul, and He has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of this material world. He is perceivable everywhere because He is self-effulgent, and by His self-effulgent luster, the entire creation is maintained. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as being without beginning. He is Purusha, the Supreme Spirit. Purusha means person. When we think of a person in our present experience, that person has a beginning. This means that he has taken birth and that there is a history from the beginning of his life. But the Lord is particularly mentioned here as Anadi, beginningless. If we examine all persons, we will find that everyone has a beginning. But when we approach a person who has no beginning, he is the Supreme Person. That is the definition given in the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Krishna, the Supreme Controller. He is without beginning, and He is the beginning of everyone. This definition is found in all Vedic literatures. The Lord is described as a soul or spirit. What is the definition of spirit? Spirit is perceivable everywhere. Brahman means great. His greatness is perceived everywhere. And what is that greatness? Consciousness. We have personal experience of consciousness, for it is spread all over the body. In every hair follicle of our body, we can feel consciousness. This is individual consciousness. Similarly, there is super consciousness. The example can be given of a small light and the sunlight. The sunlight is perceived everywhere, even within the room or in the sky, but the small light is experienced within a specific limit. Similarly, our consciousness is perceived within the limit of our particular body, but the super consciousness or the existence of the God is perceived everywhere. He is present everywhere by his energy. It is stated in the Vishnu Purana that whatever we find anywhere and everywhere is the distribution of the energy of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita also, it is confirmed that the Lord is all pervading and exists everywhere by its two kinds of energy, one spiritual and other material. Both the spiritual and material energies are spread everywhere, and that is the proof of the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, so it's a big long purport. We will go in sections. Anadiratma Purusho Nirguna Prakrite Paraha Pratyagdhama Swayam Jyotir Vishwam Yena Samanvitam. Now Kapila Muni continues. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Super Soul. Right? He is Super Soul, Supreme Soul, and he is Anadir, he is beginningless. He is Nirguna. So, what is the meaning of Nirguna? Nirguna means he is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Prakrite Paraha. He is Prakrite Paraha means he is beyond the existence of the material world. Right? So, this is the fourth thing. So, Anadir Atma, Anadir Atma, Atma Purusho, Nirguna, Prakrite Paraha. Pratyak Dhama means beyond material nature. Swayam Jyotihi, he is the self-effulgent. Vishwam Yena Samanvitam. And he is the personality where he is containing the whole world and universes. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Lord is called as Anadi. He is the Purusha. He is without beginning. So here in the material world, everywhere we find something is a beginning. The pen that we are holding or the paper that we are holding, it is coming from somewhere. That somewhere, the factory is also coming from somewhere. So ultimately, it has to come from something which has no beginning, because the beginning begins from there. And what is that beginning of the beginning? Beginning of the beginning is Anadi. This is explained beautifully in Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda. He is Anadi and he is Adi for everything else. Sarva Karana Karanam. And he is the cause of all the causes. And this is the definition of the Supreme that we will find in the Vedic literature. The Supreme means he is the beginning of everything. Sometimes people joke, they say that, who is the father of God? No, there is no father of God. God is the father. Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Bhagavatam confirms this. Janmadi yasya yatonvayadi taratas. From whom everything takes janma. Right? From whom everything begins. Janmadi yasya. And for whom there is no beginning. So the Lord is Anadi. This is what Srila Prabhupada explains in the first paragraph. Next, Prabhupada explains, the Lord is explained here as a spirit. And the spirit which is perceivable everywhere. Somebody will say, oh, Jiva is also spirit. Yes, Jiva is also spirit. But the Jiva has limited perception. Jiva is limited to his own body. And therefore, he is called as individual consciousness. The Supreme Lord is called as Supreme Consciousness because the Supreme Consciousness pervades through the entire universe. Right? See, what it means is that my consciousness is limited to my body. That means that, say, your friend is having some very intense headache. Now, the friend is having intense headache and he may have great pain, but you will not perceive the pain. Why? Because our Atma, the Jivatma, can perceive the pain only through limited to his own body. One can understand pain, one can sympathize, but will not feel the pain of another person in the sense of direct feeling the pain. Right? Somebody has to come, you have to see, one is feeling really miserable, and then one can conclude like that. One is not directly feeling. So the consciousness of the living entity is limited to his own body, whereas the supreme consciousness is all pervading, and that can be felt through entire universe. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. So there are different energies of the Lord, and thus the consciousness of the Lord is all pervading through the medium of different energies. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Hare